Hello, it's Joe Simhart here for another edition of Cults and All Culture. This session, I'd like to cover a film that came out in 1983. It was produced in Canada, and it's called Captive Minds, Hypnosis and Beyond. Like The Wave, which I covered before, it's been used many times during interventions to help cult members and their families understand how this idea of mind control and group influence works and what it can lead to. So we're going to take a little peek here at the film, and I'm going to do it a crude way by turning this around. And let's see here. Captive Minds, Hypnosis and Beyond. There are some subtitles, so forgive me for this version.
Alors, à partir de cette ligne, on a l'ordre, s'il vous plaît. Tout le monde en bas, s'il vous plaît.
We all like to believe that no one can control the way we think. But there are many techniques that can be used to change the way our minds normally work. One is hypnosis.
Respirez profondément en laissant aller simplement votre imagination.
Anyone can be hypnotized, but only if they want to be. The stage hypnotist rejects those who don't instantly show that desire.
Okay, so interesting. Anyone can be hypnotized, but only if they want to be. And the stage hypnotist rejects those who don't show that desire. I mean, the guy has to put on a show. He can't have people up there that are kind of playing a game and not responding to him. He wants people that go into the responsive state, where their executive function is submitted to him and his voice and his commands, and thus he can put on a show or do his therapy or whatever the intention of the hypnosis or the suggestion session is. When you expand on this a little bit, think about cult recruitment. Think about a charismatic leader giving a lecture. I mean, he's not going to be interested in people that are questioning him and causing a problem. Maybe 10% of the audience might be interested in what he's saying. A few of them come up and sign up for the next session or workshop and so forth. And so the idea of compliance is very important when someone enters into a realm of suggestibility, as on a hypnotic stage or hypnosis stage, which is just for entertainment, but it can be used for something a lot more serious, like getting people to join the military, go through boot camp, and die for a cause. And that cause could be anything from fundamentalist Islam to, the Stars and Stripes of the United States. Whatever the cause is, whatever is suggested by the influence environment, that's what the highly suggestible person or the compliant person takes up. They want to be there in a sense. They go to a session and want to learn meditation. The first step of compliance begins at that point. They go online and they want to know why the government is so bad, and they find YouTube videos bringing up all kinds of odd things that other people consider to be conspiratorial, but make sense to someone that begins to listen to this stuff. And the suggestions start coming in, and it begins to make more and more sense, and they comply, much like people might do on a stage with a hypnotist, believing that he's the authority figure. They've made this connection in their brain that this is something they want to do. And before they know it, they're acting like chickens or musicians or whatever the hypnotist wants them to do on stage. Of course, this film goes much further and looks at a variety of groups and a variety of suggestion techniques and hypnosis, and showing how people can be manipulated to turn into something which later they wish they had not. But in the beginning, it's always pleasant. It's always something you want to do. That's the important key here. You want to be hypnotized is what they're saying. course, a lot of these films about cults end up with the greatest cult of all, the greatest cult leader of all, as a suggestion of what could happen if you follow on, in this pattern, and then you have this whole thing about Nazis and
Control
Hitler.
all information and eventually control the way their followers think have one basic thing in common. They have found people who are willing to take that essential first step of surrendering to an authority figure they hope has all the answers. Throughout history, many people have taken that first step, sometimes joining a small group, sometimes a large group, and sometimes a group that engulfs an entire nation.
And so there's Adolf, the consummate cult leader, and we find people today claiming that such and such a political party is acting like fascists and Nazis. It's not usually helpful because the context is not the same, and certainly we don't know what the outcome might be. But remember that in Nazi Germany, only 10% of the German people joined the Nazi Party. They gained power through influence in other ways. They raised the economy. They created a disciplined society. Even a lot of the Christian churches like that there was more discipline in the country, more law. The rule of law was rising and enforced, and in many ways in dangerous and insidious ways, especially against gypsies and Jews and others that the regime did not like. But, it started off wonderful. The German people had a sense of identity again after being dismantled in World War I. So, even Nazi Germany, you could look back and say, well, a lot of these people liked what was happening around them. They didn't necessarily like the leader. They knew he had flaws. But he was getting things done, and he was making them feel better, having given them a sense of identity, a sense of security, again, in the future. And this is probably why a lot of people join new movements. They feel a sense of security. They feel that their anxious self has been given an identity, or at least a way to get to that identity. In Scientology, for example, the way is called the bridge to total freedom. Now, who in the hell wouldn't want total freedom? If that's the goal, that's the bait that's out there. And then there's there's celebrities and people that are stating how wonderful it is, and who wouldn't want to be a wealthy celebrity flying their own airplane, having a yacht, and looking secure on camera. But as we know, behind the curtain, there's usually a very insecure person. The narcissistic self that's presented in brochures and however we want people to see us. At home, in private life, might be very anxious, might be struggling with a lot of inner demons, and in fact might be lying about who they are on the brochures or on the public stage. And certainly the perception of the follower, once they're committed to a leader, is then constricted to glorified ideas of the leader. They're not going to accept that the flaws in the leader are meaningful. They're only going to see the glorified self that is projected, the hero, in other words, that they see in their lives. That's what they want, because that's what they want to be. They want to become their own hero, and here's an example, a leader, someone who can take them there. So in any case, this film, Captive Minds, is worth looking at. It gives you some idea, even though it might be dated and has some inherent flaws, the way any of these things do. It will give you some idea of how a person progresses from feeling good within a situation of compliance and progressing into something which is much more constricting and even dangerous in the end without seeing it coming. It's a lesson we all should learn, and hopefully not the hard way by going through it for 20 years and then turning back and realizing that, wow, I was brainwashed, I was in a cult, and I sure wish I hadn't done that. Anyway, hoping you enjoy the film. If you watch it, look it up online. There's several versions of it, and enjoy your day.